Okay, so we just finished chapter 8 and 9. We're looking for a couple things here. All right, working towards our end of the unit goals. We're reading and analyzing multiple texts, which we're going to be working towards putting together in our writing task. We're looking at central ideas and clearly how they connect to the American dream, which has been our focus of our unit. Today, we're going to focus on citing evidence, strong and thorough evidence to support central ideas and themes, and then we're making documentation. So these have been our look fors that we've been working on for the duration of the unit. Okay. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do a group activity, and I'm going to split y'all up into groups, and then each of y'all are going to get a slide with like 2 or 3 questions on it. And then you're going to look at a few things that we've been focusing on for this unit. So we've worked on before looking at author's choices, that's author's craft, the development of character development. In Great Gatsby, we've seen all these different dynamics of characters coming together. We have the upper class. We see the differences of how that contrasts with people like Nick Carraway, who come from the middle class of West Egg. Okay. How those characters develop over time with Gatsby's story, looking at the tone or what the narrator believes. What would y'all think the tone of Nick's story is? Like, how would y'all think about the tone? What's the tone of the story been like?
Depressing.
It's been depressing? How so?
We get rich. How dang nice.
Just give me an example of how it's depressing.
Gatsby's life.
Gatsby's life. And what about Gatsby's life do we know? How does Nick share that belief with us about Gatsby's life?
Through stories that he's told Nick.
Okay, through stories that he's told Nick. Nick's telling those stories through his eyes, and it's been something of an up and down effect. How's it been an up and down effect? Moray, how's it been an up and down effect? Okay, so he liked this girl. He had a past that he was trying to build this life. He knew he wanted better. He came into his fortune through hard work. But then Daisy, his love interest, walks back into his life. And then what happens when Daisy and Gatsby reconnect? She gets married. Who does she meet? Tom Buchanan. Okay, and then what does Tom do in this dynamic here?
Kind of like interferes with him, and is like real jealous of her visiting him again and talking to him and stuff.
Okay, so we have this kind of envious kind of feud going on. But Gatsby pursues Daisy knowing that it might not happen because what his life was like in the past. What about his life in the past? What do we know about his life in the past, Bree? What do we know about Gatsby in the past? You know, what can we think of something we know about him before he became rich? Yeah, he was kind of like this self-defeated person. Before he met Dan Cody, he felt really self-defeated in his life because he knew he wanted more from it. But what did Dan Cody do for him? Yeah, he helped him work towards his American dream. He gave him his first opportunity. And then he met Wolfsham, his business partner. And that's where Wolfsham and Gatsby built their fortune. So we're looking at main events throughout the story too. Okay, so this is part of that narrative structure. Looking at narrative structure. Analyze the way these things develop themes. I'm going to go back to our Jamboard. Y'all remember our Jamboard we worked on? I'm going to go back to that Jamboard for a minute. Let's
Good
read
morning. This week's Mansfield High School Student Spotlight goes to Mr. Jahaven Jackson. He was nominated by his teacher, Ms. Thompson. Ms. Thompson says, since school began, I have seen much improvement in Jahaven. In the beginning, he was not as attentive as I would have liked. But since our goal-setting conversation, there seems to have been a shift. He is on task, reading from the book, responding to my questioning, contributing meaningful information to our class discussions, and he met his LEAP 2025 achievement goal for Proficiency Exam 1. He is off to a great start, and I know that he has a lot to offer. At this time, Coach Bush and Coach Hill are in Jahaven's class with Ms. Thompson, who is presenting him with a gift card of his choice from the administration. Congratulations, Jahaven, and thank you for being a freshman leader on campus.
Okay, so I'm going to revisit this. Remember this symbolism, this Jamboard activity we worked on together in class? What do y'all remember about doing this? What did we do on this activity?
We looked in cases for evidence to support what was stated.
Yeah, we looked for evidence that supported examples of symbolism, right? Okay, that's part of author's choice, author's craft. Okay, so we're thinking about author's craft here. Okay, so what were our four categories for theme up here? What's the first one? What's the first one, April?
Symbolism.
Yeah, like what's our first theme here?
Oh, power of love.
Okay, and then Sydney, what was our next one?
Appearance versus reality.
Okay, Kayla, what was this one?
An ability to relieve the past.
Okay, inability to relieve the past. And Jamarius, what was the last theme?
Immorality.
Immorality. Immorality. So what do you think we're going to focus on today when we're working on our discussion questions? These four what?
Symbolism.
Yeah, four. Yep, Sydney, four themes. We're looking at four themes. But you're also, I'm going to put this link back up for y'all, and y'all can bring in more evidence that you've already collected today. Okay? So, and then we have our symbolism. Okay? And then we did another Jamboard. See if we can find this.
Wasn't this one like the T-chart one?
Yeah, the T-chart. I'm trying to see if I can find that Jamboard for us here. Remember we talked about flashback?
It was lesson 22.
Lesson 22. Let me go back to classwork. That was under week 7?
Yes, sir. 224.
Okay, 224. Analyzing shift. This has to do with structure. It's asking us to look at structure. So let's look at this Jamboard that we worked on. Shifts in structure. And what did we say flashback was again?
Memory of the past.
A memory of the past, reliving past events, and then shifting back to what time? So we go back from past to what?
Present.
Present. There you go. Okay? So another, I'm gonna put this link, y'all can put this, go to this Jamboard too and collect evidence for your discussion. Okay? So page number and then a description of flashback that we did up here on Jamboard last week. Okay? So we talked about, what was one significant symbol that we talked about as it referenced to time?
The clock.
The clock. And Sydney, how did the clock symbolize shift?
I have an answer, but I don't want it to be like the wrong answer.
We're just thinking out loud. That's what this is. We're just thinking. I'm not looking for perfect answers.
When
I remember you said something like the clock being broken.
Okay, the clock was broken. And build off Kayla's answer here.
that kind of adds on to because Gatsby's wanting to come back to a point in time when him and Daisy were still together, but once they lost each other for 5 years, that point in time kind of broke off. So the clock that's broken can kind of symbolize that it's like that relationship kind of is broken in time and they can't, go back to it.
Okay. Kayla, What about their relationship? Do you think him trying to recapture the past is going to help him reconnect with Daisy, or do you think he's going to have a hard time doing that? He's going to have a hard time. Why do y'all think he's going to have a hard time? Think about his life in the past and what he is now. Was he rich in the past?
Nope, he got money though. He ain't worried about where he live.
Okay.
It probably won't be all the time.
Now think about his life now. Do you think it'd be hard for him to really have a true connection to her based off who he was originally, or do you think his money and his wealth are going to be more involved? So it's his inability to capture the essence of what their relationship originally meant. Remember, he said one autumn night he remembered the first time that he went to kiss her, and like that moment was like it kind of time stood. He was making reference to the clock of time kind of standing still around him, but now he has to work harder to recapture the essence of what that was, because he's not the same person anymore, right? Okay,
So was he considered Jay Gatsby whenever he met Daisy, or was he still Jay Gatz?
James Gatz? That's a good question, because we saw at the end where Cody passed away, and they talked about the discussion of the will and everything, and then there was that line in the novel that says he finally shows this contour of this figure of this man, of this vagueness of who he should become, and that's when he switched to he switched from becoming James Gatz to now known as Jay Gatsby. So I think we see the timeline jump a little bit from the time he left Cody under Cody's wing and tried to venture out on his own. I think that's where he was shifted to Jay Gatsby.
So he met Dan Cody after the army, or because
He was because it's in that part of the story, he said that he had all these medals of honor. I think it was that description of him being in the army. And then he says, I also have this college education of where I'm having to work multiple jobs to pay for my tuition in college. And then he says, well, I was a lost and broken man at that point. And then he walked the shoreline and came upon this big yacht, which was Dan Cody.
So maybe he was James Gatz.
Yeah, so maybe he was James, but it doesn't specifically tell us that.
But
We can assume,
yeah.
but thinking about what are we thinking about here in the instances of the timeline? Do you think was he in his wealth yet when he met Daisy? No, he wasn't. Okay, good job, y'all. We had to think through some stuff. Okay, so what we're gonna do, okay, we're looking at author's choice, development and theme, and then we're going to put this into a class discussion on a Google slide deck, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to make some groups. I'm going to put y'all in groups up here. And then in your group, I want y'all, I think there's probably two or three questions per each slide. And you can decide like if you want to work on all these questions as a group and discuss your answers, or you could split up the questions and each of y'all work on a separate question on each slide. So slide number 2, and I'll put your group name up here. Okay, I'm going to put, let's see, Kayla, and then, who else got put in the group? Sydney, and then, let's see, Scholar, And then we have some people on our call that we're gonna have to put up here, so I'll put Malia in this group. Okay? Slide number 3. Okay, slide number 3, I'm gonna do April. Oops, wrong one. Let me go back to my other slide. April, Lashanti, where is my slide? Let's see, Kendrick, and I'll do,
You should put her in that group.
who? Kukumore?
Put me in, Sydney here.
You're gonna have to work together, y'all.
I'll be in the second group.
You're gonna have to work together.
Shekinah not here.
Well, they're on Google Meet, so I'm trying to get them involved, because they're on Google Meet. Let's see.
I don't even go to school.
What's she in?
What is that?
What they did,
They had ran out of
Okay, slide 4. Brianna. Jamarius. Let's see who else have I not put. Scholar has a group.
How you eat that?
Morley.
Okay, send me.
And Keldrick.
You listen.
Okay,
I see. Good morning. I know you said you want me to stay in that grade.
okay. So these are the groups. So slide 2. Slide 2, Kayla, Sydney, Scholar, and Malia. Slide number 3, April, Ashanti, to Kendrick, and Shakai. Slide number 4, Brianna, Jamarius, Kamarie, and Keldrick. So what you're gonna do, it looks like one of your classmates already worked on some of this too, but you're gonna put, I want you to phrase, like you can work with your group and come up with your responses collectively. This is meant for y'all to talk to each other. Y'all gotta start doing some thinking on your own, okay? I do too much thinking for you, so you gotta start thinking on your own.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yes, there is, you gotta think. You gotta think.
I ain't thinking on we relying on.
You gotta think together, okay? You're gonna insert a comment on your slide, and then in your slide, you're gonna put your answer, your response to the question, and then your evidence to support, okay? So it is 8:47. I'm gonna give you the remainder of class time to work on this in your group. On Monday, Ms. Welburn's gonna be facilitating a discussion with y'all on this stuff, okay? What you're doing here, it's very important because your prompt, your writing task that you gotta do at the end of this is gonna center on these things we just talked about. Does that make sense to y'all? Okay, so I want you to insert comments. You're gonna do them as a group. Put your answer to your question and then find evidence that supports it. You can go back to your Jamboard links that we worked on last week for symbolism and shift, and you could use these as to gather some ideas. Okay? So it's 8:48. You also have the audio here that you can use. Okay? Again, you're thinking about author's choices, and character, tone, language, and narrative structure, and the development of theme. Okay? you have the remainder of class time to work with your group. Yeah, you can sit within your group. Keep kind of, don't be up on each other, but you can be near your group if you want to, okay? So you got about 30 minutes of class to work.
So we do both questions?
Yeah, whatever on your slide, you're doing those questions. You know, talk to your group. You're coming up with these collectively as a group.
So we have two questions.
Yeah, so you're gonna work on the 2 questions that are on your slide. Okay? Put your comments on the slide for me. Kashana McIntyre, she already worked on it, but I want you to think about the development. Oh, Fitzgerald's the author of the story. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. I did this here. And then I just did this.
Okay, I'll check them.
I'm gonna insert and shoot it.
Yeah, so insert on your slides. So each of y'all have a slide up here.